Good morning. My name is Mike Battaglino. I'm the Sheppard Air Force Base Community Support Coordinator, and I'm here this morning with Simon Sinek, and we're going to talk about a variety of things, but let's start with connection. How do you take a brand new airman and you connect them with the mission of the United States Air Force?
So there's no sort of like speech you can give that will have this lasting effect. You know, one of the things that makes people feel connected to something is legacy. That they feel like there's that there are those who come before me who've sacrificed, and it's upon me to carry it forwards. Research has been done on families, for example, like kids who know just the basic history of their own families, where they come from. They have this greater sense of legacy. The Marine Corps does a particularly good job of this. Young Marines have drilled into them their own history, the famous dates, the famous battles, their own heroes, and all Marines can rattle these things off, and they celebrate with a huge ball every year at the Marine Corps birthday. I think there's an amazing opportunity for the Air Force to really teach its own history to its airmen. Do all airmen from all ranks, especially young airmen who've just joined, do they know the famous battles? Do they know the famous innovations? Do they know who invented stealth? Do they know who invented airdrop? Do they know all the things that put Air Force on the map? It's not just the 1947 date, but even going back to World War I, this mentality, this history of the Air Force about looking over the battlefield, not just trying to run through it. But one of the things that gives us connection to each other is shared history, and legacy and history, and our own history is a big part of that.
So if we do that with our brand new airmen, and then they spend a few years in the Air Force and they become junior non-commissioned officers, they become company grade officers, they've been doing the mission for a few years, how do you ensure that they remain connected to that?
Well, once again, celebrations matter, marking dates. But a big part of it is also sort of the instructions we often give to our leaders to give to their airmen. For example, if there is a young maintainer on the line, their job is to do this, to tighten the bolts on the wings. That's every day. That's what they're doing. And when they start to feel disconnected from the mission, their leader will say to them, this keeps the wings on the plane, which allows the pilot to go into the AOR to drop their ordnance to advance the mission of the United States, and you're fighting for freedom and democracy. And that young airman, this is really hard to connect this to freedom and democracy, all day. And I think we need to bring it back down to every day. So I think there's two things that mid-ranking officers and NCOs can do for their airmen, which is remind them that their mission is for the person to the left and to the person to the right. So that young maintainer, their job is to ensure that the person to the left of them and the person to the right of them feels that they can do their job, feels that there's someone there looking out for them. You good? You good? If they need anything, that there's someone there to take care of them. That's really, really important. The other thing is to connect them to the human beings that are doing the mission, not just this philosophical thing called freedom and democracy, which is sort of ethereal. I had a chance to visit RAF Mildenhall, and there was an NCO, a senior NCO, who's taken off the line to take care of me and drive me around while I was on base. And one of the things that they gave me the opportunity to do was to fly the KC-135 sim while I was there, which was a blast. And I invited my escort, this NCO, to come in to the sim with me. He'd never been in a sim in his life. He's been in the Air Force for 20 years. And he sat in there and I tooled around and I had my fun. And I said, do you want to fly? So we put him in the left seat. We had a flight instructor with us, and we let him fly the plane. And in the middle of the flight, we asked him, what do you work on? And he said electronics. And so in the middle of his flight, we turned off the electronics. And it was the first time in his life that he was ever able to physically connect the work he did with what the pilot will experience in the air. And so we started raising the question, can maintainers fly sims? Not as a reward, but rather to connect them to the pilots who are the beneficiaries of their work. And this is really important. There's been a lot of research done on this. There was some research done by, I believe it was Adam Grant, who they took some volunteers in a university who would make phone calls to raise money for scholarships. And, fundraising was down, and so they bring in all these experts to rewrite the script, in these hard times, as the script goes. No significant increase. And the researchers brought in one of the beneficiaries of the scholarship. And that beneficiary came and talked to the volunteers for 5 minutes. And all of a sudden, exponentially, fundraising increased, because now we weren't just raising money for some, philosophical scholarship. We were raising it for this person. And whenever we can connect our jobs to the physical people who are the beneficiaries of our hard work, it dramatically increases our connection not only to our mission but to each other. And so I think especially in the Air Force, where very often everything is so disconnected. If you're in the infantry, it's all right there, But in the Air Force, everything's so disconnected, and everything's about machines, and heads are covered with helmets and things like that. I think to bring the people to meet each other, to get to know each other, that somebody can actually meet the person who benefits from my hard work, dramatically connects me to the mission. So I think what that mid-ranking officer and NCO can do is find the people to bring in to meet their junior airmen, or take the junior airmen out to physically meet the people, not just see the planes flying around, but to meet the people who are the beneficiaries of their hard work, and take care of each other. So it's that dual mission: take care of the person to the left and the person to the right, and meet the people who benefit from your work.